Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Going over just some crazy bold predictions here for the 2023 offseason. Some things that I think can happen, including trades, including the draft and things like that. I will say this free agency class is not good. Lamar Jackson is not going to be a free agent. He's either going to, re-sign with the Ravens or he'll be franchise tagged and then traded. That's like the one big free agent out there. And then Saquon Barkley, the other one, they're already in talks with the Giants about possibly re-signing him and things like that. So not a very good free agent class. So there's really no free agency predictions in this video. It's just 10 random trades / predictions that I think are going to happen or I think could happen this offseason. A lot of this is speculation. A lot of it is just having fun and entertainment. But let's get into it. So number one, Lamar Jackson gets traded for a high first-round pick. And guys, the thing is with Lamar Jackson, it just feels like the Ravens and him are headed for a divorce. They already had concerns about giving him a massive contract extension last offseason, and then this season, he's having more issues staying healthy. He's missing 5 or 6 games. Maybe he has a setback or something when it looked like he was only going to miss 2 or 3 weeks. There is a team that will give up a lot of capital to trade for Lamar Jackson, and obviously Baltimore's not going to let Lamar Jackson walk. They will either do like a sign and trade or, give him the franchise tag and then trade him for a lot of assets. Obviously, with the Baltimore Ravens' current situation, they're going to want an established quarterback to replace Lamar and come in right away. They still do need a number one receiver, but they've got a great defense. J.K. Dobbins is a really good young running back. Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end in the NFL. So for the Ravens, I think it just comes down to a risk assessment, and that's why they were so hesitant to give Jackson the extension last offseason. And there's kind of this narrative going around that Lamar's not playing because he's, not extended and he doesn't have the financial security. But why would that make the Ravens more likely to give him that massive extension if they were already hesitant based off of his play style, running? Is it sustainable in terms of playing 15, 16, 17 games every single season? If he's getting top of the line money, he'd probably get a record deal wherever he signs next. He is a former MVP. And then 2, the Ravens then trade that pick. So the early first-round pick they get for Lamar Jackson, maybe they trade with Atlanta. If Atlanta's not sold on Desmond Ridder, maybe they trade with the Colts. They use that pick because I don't think that Baltimore is going to want to draft a quarterback based on their current roster and how it's constructed. They're ready to win now. They just need a quarterback and a receiver. So I think they trade that high first-round pick for an established QB, or maybe they trade that high first-round pick for a number one receiver and get a quarterback via free agency or some other way. But in my opinion, Baltimore, if they do end up trading Lamar Jackson and going a different route, it will be for an established quarterback, and the top 2 items on the list are going to be a quarterback and a number one receiver for the Ravens. They did a great job in the draft last year getting Kyle Hamilton, and that defense, again, it is really, really strong. So if they end up trading Lamar, they're going to trade the pick they get for Lamar, in my opinion, for an established quarterback or a number one wide receiver if they're able to acquire the quarterback another way. The third prediction, DeAndre Hopkins traded to the Giants. So it just feels like the Giants need to make a big move, and this is the one big move that they can make. I do see them re-signing Saquon Barkley. He had such a great year. This is a guy they invested the number 2 overall pick into. They're not going to let him walk for nothing, and there's already talks apparently about them re-signing Saquon, and it's looking like they're going to be able to get a long-term deal done with him. The Giants are in a super interesting spot because we don't expect them to make a deep run into the playoffs. I know some people are thinking they beat Minnesota, but even if they beat Minnesota, they're probably more than likely going to be a one and done. And then it comes down to the Daniel Jones question. What do you do with him? He's shown to be a decent enough quarterback to win you 9 or 10 games, but is he worthy of a 4 or a 5 year commitment? At this point, that's something the Giants are going to have to decide. They really have not done a good job surrounding him with weapons. The Kenny Golladay disaster, the Kadarius Toney disaster, things like that. So I think they go out and get an established superstar receiver from Arizona for maybe a little bit of a discount because Arizona's really trying to remake their roster right now. And DeAndre Hopkins was suspended last year and he was injured towards the end of the season, although they might have just shut him down. That's the speculation. They just shut him down because Arizona was actively trying to lose games towards the end of the year to get a better draft pick. So I'm going to say DeAndre Hopkins right now. I'm getting a Giants vibe. I know people have floated the idea, maybe New England. It feels like New England never makes a trade like that. New England does need DeAndre Hopkins or some receiver like him, and then you bring Jacoby Myers back as the number 2. I think that'd be great. Maybe even Devontae Parker as the number 3. But New England never makes trades like it. It feels like the Giants are ready for a splash. They re-sign Saquon. They figure out what to do with Daniel Jones. I would imagine he would be back at least for next year. And they give him a number 1 wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Number 4, I've got the Colts trading up to number 1. So they're going from number 4 to number 1. And they take Bryce Young. This is just all speculation. This would be the Colts falling in love with Bryce Young in the pre-draft process and saying, you know what, Houston, you made a mistake winning that game in Week 18 and falling from number 1 to number 2. Maybe it's a situation where it works out for all parties. Chicago can trade down from number 1 to number 4, get a few more assets, and maybe Houston, which is my 5th prediction, maybe they like CJ Stroud anyways. And you've got Bryce Young going number 1 overall to the Colts in a trade-up. Houston stays at number 2. They're perfectly fine with taking CJ Stroud. And then I do have Will Levis going to the Green Bay Packers, and that will be explained in a later prediction. But just looking at that dynamic to where, there's a little speculation that the Chicago Bears actually should trade Justin Fields for a first-round pick and draft Bryce Young number 1 overall. I do not believe they're going to do that. I firmly believe they will be trading down to the highest bidder, and Indianapolis is going to fall in love with Bryce Young, and the Texans are going to sit back at number 2 and be like, we are fine with CJ Stroud. He looked amazing against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. And then, guys, a real bold prediction, Will Levis, who will probably be a top 10 pick, going to the Packers. And again, it's all going to be explained here in a little bit. I do have Derek Carr going to the Commanders. So this is just more of a funny prediction just because it's been so hard with the Commanders quarterbacks. I don't know what's happening with Derek Carr. I would imagine maybe he goes to Tennessee or Washington. Those would be the 2 spots to be a starting quarterback. The Commanders at this point are in a real rough spot because they don't have a high enough pick to really trade up. They do have Sam Howell. Maybe you do a thing where you keep Sam Howell, but you also bring in a veteran and then you have them battle it out in preseason. I guess you can do that. But at this point with the Commanders, there is some speculation they might take Anthony Richardson. I would highly recommend against that. I think Anthony Richardson, although this is speculation, we'll have to see how well he does at the Combine. I don't really like Anthony Richardson. He's very raw. So it just seems kind of like a fit, a veteran quarterback going to a team that should be pretty good next year. They do have legitimate good wide receivers that are really developing. They also do have Chase Young, who hopefully will be fully healthy next year, and a defense that played pretty well without Chase Young. So if they can continue that level of play with Chase Young, they're going to be possibly elite. Derek Carr goes to the Commanders. It seems like Vegas is completely done with him. Ryan Tannehill is done in Tennessee. So just looking at the Ryan Tannehill situation, I believe the Titans save about $25 million against the cap if they straight up cut Ryan Tannehill. Who's the replacement? Maybe it's Derek Carr. Maybe it's another veteran. Maybe it's Malik Willis. He looked bad, but we've seen a lot of rookies that look bad and completely turn it around. Just look at Jalen Hurts a few years ago. He was almost unplayable, and then the next year he got more experience and played a lot better. So maybe they roll with Malik Willis, but it is looking like Ryan Tannehill will be done in Tennessee. And maybe it comes full circle and Ryan Tannehill goes to the Commanders. Wouldn't that be something? Number 8, Tom Brady retires after trying to go to San Francisco. So right now, my speculation is Tom Brady is thinking of 2 options. Number 1, I go to a loaded 49ers roster and try and do one last run. Or number 2, if I'm not able to get there, I'm just retiring straight up. I don't think Brady's going to do anything in the playoffs. That is my prediction. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys go to Tampa Bay and beat them. And Brady really is in a spot where I'm sure he wants to go to the 49ers, but at this point, the 49ers have Trey Lance, who they invested the number 3 overall pick into. Tom Brady is just simply too old to be able to rationalize giving up Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and your future. I guess you could do the thing where maybe you trade Trey Lance for a significant discount, keep Brock Purdy, and use Tom Brady for a year as a mentor to Brock Purdy. But is Tom Brady even that good, good enough to warrant doing that at this point? I don't think he is. So I think Tom Brady's going to look at San Francisco. They're going to say thanks, but no thanks. We're rolling with Trey Lance next year. And Tom Brady's just going to retire. That's my thoughts on that whole. I don't know. Maybe Tom Brady wants a retirement tour. He can just stay with the Bucs next year. It's not like they have a better option, and he does have legitimate weapons in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, both signed to long-term contracts. So maybe he just stays with Tampa Bay. Number 9, Aaron Rodgers to Vegas. So this would be a trade, I believe, and what would happen is Vegas would give up assets. I don't know how many assets they would need to give up to get Rodgers at his current state and at his current age, but that would be the whole idea, where the Packers trading Aaron Rodgers, getting maybe a first-round pick, using that pick to move up into the draft and drafting Will Levis, and then they have a training camp battle between Jordan Love and Will Levis, with Jordan Love starting the first 5 or 6 games of the season and then Will Levis taking over. But guys, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, it's such a great fit. It's a reunion with Davante Adams. The NFL wants this to happen. They also have Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs, would he reconsider maybe going back and re-signing with Vegas if they're able to get Aaron Rodgers and maybe build a super team? And also for Aaron Rodgers, how about playing in a dome? For the first time in his career, it feels like the Rodgers-Packers relationship is over. I tried to tell Aaron Rodgers, listen, you need to leave that team. They have a horrible front office, and they desperately needed a receiver last year, and they used both their first-round picks on underperforming Georgia defenders. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm completely out of there. It is such a joke. I personally think it's more likely that Rodgers just retires, because that's more his personality. It seems like he's a guy where it's like, I don't need football. If I'm not that good, whatever, I'll just retire. But I still think Aaron Rodgers is decent. If you surround him with Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Davante Adams, he can have a really good year. Maybe Josh Jacobs comes back. So Aaron Rodgers to Vegas. And then how about T. Higgins traded to the Chicago Bears this offseason? The Bears need a true number 1. The Cincinnati Bengals are going to be at kind of a fork in the road where you've got these 3 guys. Joe Burrow needs a massive contract. Jamar Chase needs a massive contract. T. Higgins needs a massive contract. I think their front office will do an assessment, and they will realize we can't pay all 3 of these guys at the same time. They're all going to make a ton of money. Our cap would be completely hamstrung. We need to trade one of them and try and get the most value possible right now, and they possibly get a first-round pick or a second-round pick, probably a first-rounder, because T. Higgins is a beast for T. Higgins, and the Chicago Bears get their franchise receiver. To be honest, I hate the trade that the Chicago Bears made, trading the 32nd overall pick for Chase Claypool. It was so dumb. Because T. Higgins is kind of like the same mold as Chase Claypool, a bigger receiver. But I think Darnell Mooney and T. Higgins would be a great fit, and it would be perfect there in Chicago. Ideally, if you're the Bears, you would love to still have that 32nd overall pick to be able to use as part of a trade package for T. Higgins, but they traded it for Chase Claypool. So either way, guys, that's just 10 of my offseason bold predictions. Just crazy stuff for fun, for entertainment. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.